Alright everyone, welcome back to day 6 of the 2025 AFL trade period. The 6th day in a row that I've made one of these videos. I'm not gonna lie, it's definitely a different thing for me, a different experience. Usually I try to make a couple videos, in one day, edit them all together, and then of course schedule them out over the couple of days or whatever. But with trade period, the news comes to us per day, so I've been trying to juggle this, juggle freaking work, juggling eating 8,996 different calories a day. Gotta stay chubby, bro. But obviously it's been a different experience. It's been really good. I'm hoping to do this, I think, every day of the free agency and trade period. So we'll see how we go. I'm not going to guarantee it. I could get some throat infection, which touches me without consent tomorrow. And I'm just like, you know what? I can't be stuffed doing this anymore. So we'll have to say. But yeah, I'm going to try and do it every single day because the news keeps pumping out. And we've, firstly now got our first look at the trades. We've got some actual officially confirmed trades that have happened, as of late. Malcolm Roses Jr. was actually traded to the Sydney Swans. That has, of course, gone through. Sydney will be receiving Malcolm Roses and pick 62, while Gold Coast are receiving pick 51 and 69. So I'm not going to lie, I don't mind Roses as a player. I think he's actually pretty stiff to not have been given a game by the Gold Coast Suns, but the Suns' depth has, just been so crazy, and their depth in the small forward position has been pretty good this last season, where a guy like Roses just really wasn't able to prove himself. But I think this is a great move by Sydney, because I think the three biggest things they needed in this offseason were a key forward, a small forward, and a key defender. And they've just got one of them. They've got their small forward now. We know that they're going for their key forward in Charlie Curnow. Not only are they going for a key forward, but they're going for the biggest one available. So we'll see how that does unfold. We know Charlie Curnow and Geelong, I think, have been making out behind the scenes. So we'll see if Sydney can land that big fish. I actually think they're more likely than not at this point. We've been hearing a couple of different rumours that Carlton are much more impressed by the Sydney offers, so that could very well happen. If they do get Roses and Curnow, I think they'll easily be back in the 8. They just are going to need another key defender, and I don't know where they're going to find that or how they're going to source that out. But Sydney have been pretty clever at doing stuff like this in the past. So that was the first trade. Malcolm Roses to the Sydney Swans gives them a new small forward for next year. We also got a new one, which has Liam Reidy going to the Carlton Football Club. So this one looks like it's been done as well. The Blues will get Liam Reidy, pick 53 and 71, while Daicos will get 50 and 68. Pretty win-win trade. I mean, he was just a depth player for Fremantle at the end of the day, backing up Jackson and Darcy. He probably wasn't going to play a game for them anytime soon, and Carlton are definitely looking for a new ruckman. They want to replace TDK, but they also don't want Mark Pitnett to be the long-term guy going forward. So they've kind of gone out and searched for one here. I'm going to assume this is a guy that they think can be like their equivalent to when Richmond were able to get Toby Nankervis from Sydney, and when Collingwood were able to get Darcy Cameron from Sydney. These teams got these ruckmen for very, very cheap who just couldn't get a game, and they developed them into being, at one stage in both of their careers, top 5 ruckmen in the league. I think this is what they're going to try and do with Liam Reidy here. They're going to expect him to hopefully develop into that guy. But if he doesn't develop into that guy, he literally gave up a freaking packet of Doritos and a can of Solo no sugar to make this happen. So this is overall a good deal. We also saw that Fremantle were busy again with Judd McVey being traded from Melbourne. The Dockers, of course, giving up pick 23 to make this happen. Good addition by Fremantle here. I don't think they're really changing their team out too much. They kind of know what to expect from it going forward now. And I think with how young Fremantle's team actually is, which still surprises some people, I think they were just going about it with the angle of, let's just keep the same team together, maybe add 1 or 2 pieces, and we'll run it back with a team that should hopefully now be a lot more advanced, a lot more games into them, and a bit more experience for next year. So that's the direction the Fremantle have gone with. Judd McVey, though, is another really young player they've brought in who's going to develop with this core. An okay halfback who didn't have the best year for Melbourne, but you can definitely see glimpses and signs of what he's going to be like. I think one of the knocks on him, and Kane Corns mentioned this as well, is he doesn't get enough of the ball, which is a shame, because when he does have the ball, he can actually be pretty good with it. So I wonder if that's going to change a little bit at Fremantle, if they're going to give him more of a license to go and do that, or what that's potentially going to be. I'm not exactly too sure. We did also see a massive 3-way trade with Fremantle again, man. They're freaking busier than rabbits in mating season. They are going all in. Fremantle, of course, in this deal, gave up pick 12, 33, 44, and 50. They got back pick 19, 23, and 46. Of course, that 23 was just moved for Judd McVey. So basically, they got back pick 19, McVey, and 46. So not a bad deal at all. West Coast, in my opinion, though, are the winners in this trade. They gave up 16, 22, and 23. But were able to bring in Starcevic, 12, 33, and 52. So they actually moved up in this trade. They moved a couple of those later first-round picks, moved up, and brought in arguably the best one-on-one defender in the game. Like, I'm going to go that far to say that Starcevic is an elite one-on-one defender in the game. Trying getting a kick on him is next to impossible. If he can stay fit and stay off the concussions, which, touch wood, hopefully for his career, he can, continue to do and be okay. That will be amazing for them. And he brings great leadership. He'll be an elite defender going forward. And I think this is one of the best additions so far in the off-season. While Brisbane, they managed to get 16, 22, 44, and 50. They gave up 19, 46, and 52. So basically, they moved up, I think, in the draft by 2 and 3 positions with every pick, while just losing Starcevic is essentially what happened. Which isn't the worst move, because we know that they are going to go for another academy player in Daniel Annabelle this year. And they're, of course, going to have to give up a little bit to match that pick, which will probably get done, I think, in the top 5 to either Richmond or Essendon. I think we'll put a bid on him, and Brisbane will go ahead and match that. So those are pretty much the trades that we've been, that have been confirmed and whatnot. We've had a lot of different AFL news here and there as well. I will start off with the more freaky, like, out of nowhere kind of one, and that's the report that multiple clubs have reached out to Nick Daicos and his management over the past few weeks to understand if he has any interest in a move per Cal Toomey. I mean, oh my god, I don't know. I don't know where this one came from, how Cal Toomey even heard about it and why he heard about it, but I'm sure some of you guys have probably seen this by now because a lot of different people have been talking about it. But yeah, I guess teams have been asking about Nick Daicos. Look, Nick Daicos is contracted, I think, till 2028 or something like that. And the reality is that the only team who's ever going to come into contention with signing Nick Daicos to their team is Tasmania. And the reason why that's going to happen is because Tasmania are expected to get a signing bonus for players in their first couple of years, which apparently is going to be pretty crazy. So if Tasmania do have enough money, 2028 comes around, they're like, shit, Collingwood are offering Daicos $2.2 million a year or whatever they'll be offering him by then. Tasmania could probably say, we'll offer you the 2.2, but we'll give you $1 million signing bonus. I don't know what it's going to be. This is some NBA 2K level shit in real life. Daicos will be a Collingwood player forever, I would think, unless something crazy were to happen in 10 years' time. I don't know. I expect him to be the next captain of Collingwood as well. So I'm not going to look into that one too much. We did hear some Clayton Oliver news, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is confirmed by the time this video coming out. but it's been said that Clayton Oliver is expected to nominate GWS. He even actually telling, I think, Toby Bedford, his former teammate. I think it's Toby Bedford, yeah. Yeah, shit, bro. I had to fact check that real quick. Toby Bedford, his former teammate, that he will want to go there and he's going to nominate there. This is a massive get by the Giants because they're getting him on the AFL minimum salary. They're not even paying him anything. Melbourne are expected to pay over half of his contract, which is around 650 to 700k a year. And they're going to be doing that for the next 5 years, it is reported, which is insane just because they want to get him off the books. They want to rebuild on the run and they want to bring in some picks, which I think GWS will offer. I think they'll offer a nice amount, considering they'll be paying him the AFL minimum not AFL minimum, the AFL average, I should say. And the thing is with Clayton Oliver is GWS desperately need an inside clearance contested player, and that's what Clayton Oliver is going to add. We've also heard whatever the off-field stuff is, don't want to get into it too much. We don't really know what it truly is, but whatever the off-field stuff is has calmed down. He got better and better throughout most of the season until like the end. Clayton Oliver is expected to have a good year next year. He got to pick out of Collingwood and Giants. Looks like he's going with the Giants pick, and I think that's a great nomination for him. Out of the spotlight. It just shows that their pitch must have been really good for him to ignore going to Collingwood, pretty much the biggest team in the game. He's ignored that and he's gone to GWS to help them out and join this core, which desperately need him, in my opinion. I think that's a great get from them, and I'm super excited to see how that does unfold. We also did hear that there's another son to watch on the trade period. Xander McVey saying that Jake Rogers is another Gold Coast son to watch over the trade period. His management has been gorging interest from rival clubs after the 2023 first-round pick only managed 18 games in his first 2 years. He's contracted until 2026. This will not happen. I cannot see Gold Coast trading away Jake Rogers. I can't see Jake Rogers wanting to be traded away either. He's from the Gold Coast area. And the thing is this is probably just a ploy to make sure he maybe gets more games next year, or make sure something different changes. Maybe make sure he gets an extension earlier than expected. I'm not too sure. They're definitely pushing for something here, and there is a goal and a motive, and you can tell, because we've seen that Gold Coast are already moving on a bunch of different players, one of which actually being Ben Ainsworth is exploring his opportunities as we speak. If Ben Ainsworth does get traded to Carlton, which has been highly rumoured, we know and expect that Jake Rogers will probably take his place in the forward line next year. Does Jake Rogers want to be a forward? Probably not. He probably wants to be a midfielder. But of his height of, I think it's 171 centimetres, yeah, I'm not too sure about that in the midfield. I mean, the only guy doing that is Liam Baker at like 173, but Liam Baker's the GOAT and Jake Rogers is not. So I think Jake Rogers will start off and he'll solidify that small forward position with Gold Coast, and then he may move into the midfield. But yeah, there'll be teams looking at him. I'm assuming a Richmond or an Essendon, teams that may be looking for those young players who can come in and add a role, will be looking at him. But I think Gold Coast have a very what the hell is the word? A very, very big vision, I should say. And I think Jake Rogers is in that vision, and they expect him to be there probably for a very, very long time. So we've heard that one. We also heard with Gold Coast that David Swallow could potentially play on. Gold Coast Games record holder David Swallow is open to playing on in a retirement backflip. All eyes on West Coast for the Perth-born 32-year-old. No commitment from any club yet. That being reported by Tom Morris. I mean, yeah, you could kind of tell that David Swallow didn't really seem like he was ready to retire. Gold Coast were very much going in a different direction, though, and they're already moving on a bunch of different players and letting players walk because they've got so many academy guys they're bringing in. They got Christian Petrarca they're bringing in. Jamara they're bringing in. BT said they were interested in freaking James Rowbottom. They are moving on a bunch of different players, but bringing in a bunch of guys, kind of refining their team. And David Swallow just clearly wasn't in the long term of their team. Gold Coast didn't want to be disrespectful and delist him because he's been a club champion for them. They wanted him to retire. He retired. But clearly there would have been some interest over the last couple of days of some sort by a team who's like, you know, hey mate, are you still retired, or do you want to come and freaking play a leadership role on our team? And I think that's what West Coast may be doing and maybe looking at. Maybe a 1 year on-field coaching role, you know, where he plays half the year in the AFL, half the year in the Waffle, depending on when he can get a game and whatnot. I think that would be pretty clever. I think Gold Coast, you know, they didn't need him anymore. But West Coast could very well use some experience and some leadership and coaching, which they're trying to get. Like some of the veterans who have been on their team, like a Liam Ryan, who wasn't really adding anything leadership-wise, they seem to not really care. They're moving on now, and they're knowing that they're going in a different direction. But if they can bring some cheap leadership from another team, it can help them out quite a fair bit. It's why they're doing their research and why they're looking at David Swallow. So I honestly like this one. We've also been hearing that the Adelaide Crows have asked a question now about Riley Sanders. The Western Bulldogs midfielder has a year to run on his deal at the Dogs, but it has become a possible trade target for the Crows. I mean, yeah, considering Adelaide struck out on Christian Petrarca, they may be looking for a new inside midfielder to come in. We know Sanders will be a good inside midfielder. Is that going to be on the Dogs or not? I would say probably not. Tasmania are already coming early. Pause. Tasmania have already been linked to him very early because that's where he's from, and they're not coming in for a little bit, but we know they're already seeing what the youth is looking like and what free agents are going to be coming in when they'll be coming to the league and what players they can trade for. So they've kept an eye out on him. Adelaide though, yeah, I can't see him leaving to Adelaide right now, because if he does move, as I just said, I think it would be to Tassie. There's no reason Adelaide can't ask the question and try and make this happen. They do need an inside midfielder, and it wouldn't be bad if they brought in a young one. I just don't know if the Dogs would do this, and I don't know, it is tough because I don't know if Sanders will ever develop really well at the Dogs, just because of all the inside midfield depth that they actually have, and it's not slowing down. He hasn't really been able to get a great opportunity in there, but at Adelaide he'd probably be in that inside midfield 90% of the game. So we'll have to see how that one does unfold. We also heard as well that Matthew Lloyd thinks that Stephen May, the best possible opportunity for him would be to go to Collingwood. Stephen May, I think, has been looking at some of his decisions and filtering what the interest is like around the league. There hasn't been a whole lot from what we have heard. I think Collingwood have been one that have been mentioned. A lot of Pies fans are very against the idea though. Like every time I talk about it on the channel, I have some Pies fan in the comments like pretty much losing their shit. So I don't know if they will really be one, but Matthew Lloyd thinks that's the opportunity. You know, as mentioned previously in the video, I think Sydney will go for, you know, Curnow and Roses, and they've already got Roses, and a very big opportunity to get Curnow now. I think Stephen May would actually be a good player to look at there. The only issue is with that, if you add Stephen May, you got him who will be like 34 next year, and Rampy will be turning 36 next year. There's a very old back line. It's not really sustainable. You kind of feel like Sydney need to go for someone younger if they're going to try and make that happen. But yeah, I don't know. I honestly feel like at this point, Stephen May is just going to have to stay at Melbourne, and he's not going to get moved, and he might actually be playing some VFL footy next year. I'm not too sure, because Stephen King doesn't seem to be too keen on playing these guys. I mean, he basically told Clayton Oliver to get the F out of here because he, you know, wanted to move him on, and he'd be playing him in VFL if he didn't. That's what we kind of heard. I don't really know. We'll have to see how this all does unfold and more. Of course, I'd very much like, you know, to hear all of your thoughts and opinions on this in the comment section down below. Who's going to get traded? What trades are not going to happen? Are you guys excited by all the news we've been hearing? You know, let me know your thoughts and opinions on this down below. Make sure to leave a like on this video to let me know you enjoyed as well. Subscribe to the channel for the latest AFL content and AFL news. My gaming/movie channel will also be linked down below as well. But yeah, as I was saying, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.